I'm gonna have to say spoiler warning before I go into all of this, but let's go ahead and get started with this. Hey, fellow agents. So, for anybody out there who was kind of wondering what was going on with the ending to Outlast 2, I did a little bit of research on it. It was kind of what I was theorizing a little bit. There's multiple stories going on in the whole entire thing, but essentially, what I had found from researching the information was that there was a missing document that I did not come across on the lake, even though I had to play through that segment on two different occasions on that live feed. I somehow didn't come across a person who was from the previous Outlast games involved with the corporation that was causing what was going on in Outlast 1. So they were involved here in this second game. And the memo that I would have found would have explained that there was a bunch of signals that were being sent out. I probably read something along those lines in there, but anyhow, the signal that was being sent out was like a mind control signal from the corporation, causing people to see the darkest parts of themselves manifested. So essentially, Papa Noth, being heavily religious, probably the priest or the religious man of the community in the first place, felt that basically revelations was happening and believed that he needed to kill off everybody there. The psychosis was so strong that the other people would believe pretty much anything he said. I mean, he was already a pillar of the community or a leader of their group, so that would have happened. They would have followed suit to it, and he believed that every child born and all the people of him, as well as the others and everything, were antichrists, essentially. That the antichrist must exist, just doesn't know who it is, so everyone's got to die, kind of thing. Then there's also Val, who was apparently a transgender person. I apparently missed a memo some here on that as well. But she was outcasted from the community, had a few other people that followed in her own beliefs, and again as well had mind alteration from the signal that was being broadcasted, which was what the bright lights and the loud thwong sounds that were going on sounded like rapture was happening, essentially. So that's what brought you guys down in the chopper, and that's coincidentally why every time those went off, the hallucinations you were having get more intense. So anyway, going back to the Outcast group, their group of people were essentially like without real religious belief in general. They apparently had nothing major in their background, and so they were not as affected by everything going on around the area, at least not religiously. Instead, they ended up becoming more feral when you would see them, their cannibalistic ways, making them almost look like a pagan group of people, showing their true face, essentially. But in all of it, because of Papa Noth's influence and his belief that she was pregnant, your wife, with the Antichrist, and how much that is stated to you, the followers of Val and their outcasts as well, all were basically influenced by this idea. So once you get to the end, what I couldn't figure out there was how she was actually pregnant. It could have been that this just took over many, many months, and that every time you went out, passed out, you did move to other locations, and it could have been that you were knocked out, and that was the situation. Like, you were out for weeks at a time, if not months. So, which could be possible. But anyway, in the end, apparently, it's really more evidence that it was more than likely psychosis for it, and the influence of the signal that you were presented so much, because once the child was born, Lynn even stated that there was nothing there. So even though you look down and you see that there's a child there, she saw nothing. So you're definitely affected or fully turned essentially to their side. And so all of that basically is kind of leading up to his end of the world scenario that's been presented to him. Everything that Papa Noth said and all the stuff that you read throughout the whole entire time, all put together, kind of indicates that there goes my mouse. Kind of indicates that your guy, Blake, definitely lost his mind at that point. So now, let's see what other story track was there? For all of his memories, I think all of those were playing in reverse. That's kind of why, like, in the early parts of it, it was, I mean, it was a little bit out of order a bit, but for the most part in reverse. Every time you recorded anything in the dreams, there was no footage to be found, but any audio that you heard was in reverse. I haven't taken the time to actually play those back to see what they are saying, but it was backwards. And every time that you did go in, he happened to notice that he was further forward or further back in time, having to play back through. That's why you kept on having to go back through similar areas each time, which relayed all the way back to what I had thought, which was that the girl had a bad home life and was being sexually molested, which is heavily implied. Through a bunch of research, I found that apparently there's audio files that can be found that indicate that the priest definitely was having some sort of sexual relation with her. In fact, the little bit at the very end when I try to save her from the actual priest and see the actual memory as opposed to the demon version of him that was chasing you around, that was supposed to have an audio sequence that implied heavily a sexual uh, thing with the girl, with Jessica. So, but that was cut out apparently from the information I found. Apparently, the um, Australian board was not supposed to receive that edit of the game. They were supposed to receive the one that the rest of the world got, the one that we have now. And there was an alteration towards the end sequence when Val kind of gets you down, which I assume would be like the lead in, since he's almost completely lost his mind at that point, would be like kind of the lead into that sequence and reason why they chose that point to do the memory where she's kept behind by the priest. So anyway, so yeah, the parts where she was hung, or at least the indication of that over and over again, I think might have been either an attempted suicide situation, he remembers it wrong, or possibly and more likely that the priests at the school covered it up because she had such an obsession with the hangman game and problems with her home life, and he accidentally got her, killed her. It would have made sense to cover that up so they don't get in trouble. So I think that's what he was remembering, was the visualization, the cover up. His brain basically blocked out a majority of what happened, or maybe it was all made up altogether. And that's pretty much it. So the whole entire game is basically brainwashing psychosis, and what makes it a trip mostly is how badly each group is affected by it. There was the group of people that were down in the woods as well. They were also from there, but the signal didn't go as deep into the valley, probably due to reverberations off the mountains or something realistic like that. But they did have some effects from it. So, and they were also closer to the mine, which in that area, the effect was causing them to become more violent. So the combination of the religious side, like being in between the two, is almost like a transitionary stage where you go from the heavily religious Christian cult, essentially, to the paganistic cult. And in between is the group that's outcasted from both. Even though they weren't called the outcasts, I think they would call them the Scald. They were diseased and ill, partially, and not being able to take care of. So that illness combined with their mental illness altogether caused them to be to develop almost a New Testament form of belief, thinking that you were Christ brought to them, and that eating of your flesh would make them healthy again. So I got that part right when I was doing the game. It wasn't too hard to figure out on that one, but so like all the things that you saw, the raining blood, the fish coming up from the water, all of that was more than likely like going crazy from the signal that was being broadcasted out to Oak Valley. So hopefully in DLC content we'll get some more explanation to it. I mean, you get to the end and see all of the people dead from cyanide poisoning, but then there was a whole bunch of people that were fighting down below when you wake up from realizing the priest killed Jessica. And yeah, Hope you enjoyed this information. Hope it helped out a little bit, or maybe clarified what was going on if you were confused towards the end. I mean, you probably find the same information from 100 other people out there. There's a bunch of theories and stuff that go into different things. Mostly the idea that it took a longer time frame than was intended, but although it seemed like that, it felt like that could have been done in 2 nights. I mean, it's only about, or in one night actually, because it was only approximately about 10 hours more or less of gameplay, which 8 to 10 hours is about how long it would run from darkness to sunrise. Plus all of the fog and the storm and everything would have, if that was real, would have caused a vision loss in a sense. So, but yeah, I don't think I've got anything else for you. So if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. I'll try my best to analyze some of the other ones whenever it comes to stuff that's out there that I needed to do some better understanding on. And don't forget to check out my Patreon page at patreon.com/ASRG if you're interested in helping me better this page or this channel and helping out with deciding what goes on this channel. Yeah, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment below. Hit that notification button if you're already a subscriber, so that way you'll get notified to when I'm actually putting new stuff out. Other than that, I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a great day.